Well, welcome back to the Vits Great Hall. But as you can see on our screen at this moment, the procession carrying the remains of Ma Gertrude Shope have already left her home in Centurion. That's where a valediction ceremony was held, as my colleague Natasha Piri was reporting from there. That procession, which is headed from Centurion, will now come here to the Vits Great Hall in Johannesburg, and that's where the funeral service will get underway, where so many mourners have already started arriving to pay tribute to this giant in the liberation struggle for the attainment of democracy in South Africa. Those are live visuals that you are seeing on our screen, and as we track that procession, which is headed here to Wits University, I want to bring in Sis Nomboniso Gasa, who is a gender activist. And of course, I know, Sis Nomboniso, you worked with Mme Shope in campaigns, when we talk about, in particular, women's rights. I want to start here, first of all. I mean, I want to talk beyond Mme Shope and the person that she was. I mean, we're talking about a combatant. We're talking about a mother. Could we perhaps start there about the woman that this was?
Yes, I think what is important is that the role of the ANC Women's League in the 1990s, which is when I met Mme Shope and many other leaders during the negotiations process, was very, very important. They pushed for fair representation and actual participation of women in the negotiations table.
Right.
Mme Shope and many other leaders like Masisulu, Balega, and Met and others ensured that the women of this country had a voice during negotiations. They were not afraid to go against the ANC, to challenge the ANC directly, as they mobilized women from other political parties who were part of the Women's National Coalition. So Mme Shope was very, very strong as a freedom fighter and as a combatant.
Yeah.
But she was also a mother and ensured that the people that she interacted with experienced her in her holistic way, as a revolutionary, as a mother, as an activist, and ensured that everybody was looked after. She was very concerned about people's well-being.
And one of the important aspects, I remember when we had a conversation, you spoke about how important it was for her to record the history of women. That was also an important aspect for her.
She was very uncompromising about that. Yeah. She felt that our understanding of our history had to integrate and be aware of the role of women in the political struggle, in the liberation struggle, and in all aspects of the struggle. She herself, as I say, was a combatant. She wasn't, when it was necessary, she wasn't afraid to carry the gun. She ensured that when organizations were unbanned and when women from inside the country met with women from outside the country, that there was an acknowledgement of the role that women played inside the country, outside the country, and also intergenerational struggles. Right till in recent years, she was part of undertakings and endeavors that ensured that the record, the historical record.
Sorry, Sis Nomboniso. Former President Thabo Mbeki is arriving now with Mme Zanele Mbeki. I'm sure you'd be able to show those visuals on our screen. Indeed, you are able to see that. Just some of the dignitaries. Apologies for that, Sis Nomboniso. We are going to, the former President Thabo Mbeki, as I indicated, arriving together with Mme Zanele Mbeki. Sis Nomboniso, apologies for that. We're going to have to keep interjecting as many of the mourners start arriving.
We were conscious of the need for the historical record of this country,
right,
to accurately reflect the role of women and for the narrative of big men of history to be challenged. She was part of projects like the Women's Monument. She worked with historians like Luli Kalinikos and many others in recording those roles. But it was not only an organizational commitment for her.
Yes.
She made sure that whenever she met people, she would say, write and tell your story. And in situations where people wrote their memoirs, where they told their story, Mme Shope was the first to buy that book and read it until very late in her years.
And there's something that you won't get in the history books, or you wouldn't get on Google. I recall my conversation with you. You spoke about when you were to marry Raymond Sutner. This was a white man. He was in the ANC. You were summoned by the likes of Mme Shope to come and account. Talk about this account. Account? Are you serious about this man? Do you love this man? From the conversation I had with you, Abo Mme Shope, Abo Masisulu were mothers to the man who you were to marry.
It was not even about marriage.
Yes.
It was far from even a consideration of marriage or even a steady relationship. I had just started going out with this man.
Yes.
We both were working in the ANC. He was in the leadership of the ANC. Then one day I get a call told to come up to the Women's League floor by Masisulu.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was called for. And then when I went into this room, there were Matambo, Masisulu, Mme Shope, Me Ruth, and other younger women, Nosivuwe Mapisangakula and others. And Masisulu said, I hear you are dating my son. And I was like, who is her son now? I'm not dating any of her sons.
Yes.
And I said, Ma, and then she says, Raymond. Because Masisulu had worked with Raymond and others in the UDF period. So she considered Raymond her son because Raymond had worked closely in particular with Zwelakhe Sisulu. And then they said, are you serious? What is your intention? And I remember Mme Shope saying, are you fooling around with our son? And here was an older white man. And here I was as a young black woman, an activist and feminist in the organization. These women were protecting this man. They wanted to know what my intentions were because they knew him better than they knew me. Me Ruth in particular and Albertina Sisulu were considered themselves as mothers to Raymond. And it was interesting because in later years, my experience of Mme Shope has never shifted from that. So in this meeting, I was held to account to say what my intentions were, and it left a lasting impression both to me and to Raymond, because it raised so many questions: intergenerational relationships, interracial relationships. I was a young black woman. I wasn't their daughter. He was their son, and this is an example of how Mme Shope's mothering was political, was personal, and ensured that the well-being of the young people around her was always taken into consideration.
Sis Nomboniso Gasa, thank you very much indeed. I wish we could have continued our conversation, but as more guests arrive, thank you very much indeed for your time. Sis Nomboniso Gasa speaking to us about, the parts that she shared, with Mme Gertrude Shope. And I guess, that mother figure, once again, is something that we keep hearing about, the role that she played in the lives of younger women at the time. Sis Nomboniso Gasa had worked together with Mme Shope on some campaigns. There are more arrivals now, and in just about a moment we will learn who are some of. It certainly looks like Kgalema Motlanthe, who is arriving at this point, if I've got a good glimpse from where I am at this time, just amongst the dignitaries that are here to pay tribute to Mme Gertrude Shope. This is as the procession is still making its way. And indeed, it is former President Kgalema Motlanthe who's arriving at this particular time. And these are part of the dignitaries that are here to pay tribute to Gertrude Shope, the Kgalema Motlanthe, just amongst the dignitaries that has also now arrived.